alive.
Hi. Straight in there, eh? Okay, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Keeping busy, speaking to people and learning a bit more about American history. Michael
Hmm.
Jones. Did you listen to my stream with him the other day? Probably not, but that's okay. I learned a few more things
Where was it on YouTube?
on my channel.
Yeah, I missed it somehow. Or maybe I did
You're
see it, I
probably
just
not
didn't go.
subscribed. Yeah. That's a problem, isn't it? Suddenly you have this revolutionary way of talking to lots of people, and nobody remembers anything. Nobody remembers watching anything. You might as well just not bother. Really.
No, I mean I might have watched it, but I can't remember what happened.
Um, you probably didn't watch it the whole way through. I mean, that's the other thing as well,
Oh
right?
yeah.
If you don't make your
Hmm.
point quickly, nobody will just stay around and watch it from beginning to end and whatever. Pearls of wisdom that might have cropped up with you and your mates, it's going to be lost because nobody was listening attentively anyway.
Well, that is, or it depends. If it's covering a topic that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, most people suffer from ADHD, and if you don't make a point already in the first, few minutes, they won't have stayed around, and that's why StreamYard are doing this AI clips thing, and it's just saying everybody only has the attention span of a TikToker, and if you
Hmm.
don't get it in within the first minute, forget it. Forget it. If it's 1 hour long, forget it. 30 minutes, forget it. 20 minutes, maybe, but
Hmm.
just forget telling anyone about anything because they won't be listening. I don't know.
Hmm.
They'll be doing something
Yeah.
else.
What is it? What's the AI clips thing?
Well, if you if you pay for your StreamYard,
Yeah.
it will make AI clips of your longer streams. And then you can post it and make it go viral because nobody's going to listen to, anything longer than what, 3 minutes?
Sure, yeah, fair enough. That would be a way of getting someone like me interested. So I watch a clip and go, "Oh, that's really interesting." Now I'll watch the longer form. It's worth investing my time. I don't think that's a problem. It's just how it is. It's just there's so much content out there. You have to prove your content is better than other people's content and it's worth watching. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, and the, the problem with Michael Jones is that I don't think people get what he's saying. I really don't think they do. I mean,
I
do
don't
you
think
go up?
he's saying one particular thing, and I've been trying to take a new angle with E. Michael Jones because it's usually the Jews are the problem, blah, 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 but not talking about how Christians or Catholics can develop themselves to be real men, because I focus on men, so that they can make progress in their lives and they don't want to kill themselves, which is what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, but maybe they'd rather die than become Muslim, right? You know how some
Well,
of
I'm
them
not
are.
telling them to become Muslim. I'm telling them to become good Christians. That's the angle that I'm covering at the moment.
I
I'm
hate
always saying being
Christianity.
a Muslim is the best, but like if you're going to be too racist to handle that, then I want you to not kill yourself and make the most of your life. And that's what like my next stream with E. Michael Jones is. I'm gonna ask him. Um, what motivates him, and we're going to talk about masculinity and how to be real men and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying become a Muslim. I'm even saying I even said in my last stream with Nathaniel, for people who don't know, he's a white Christian, and said, I want you to be a role model. And then the next one with E. Michael Jones, I'm going to ask him, I want you to be a role model. So yeah, I understand there's racism, and I want people to stay alive. So I'm giving them the easiest form, which is like become a good Christian, which is basically on the way to become a decent Muslim,
Well, I
except for
mean,
the
the thing
Trinity bit.
is, their heads are full of nonsense. They can't agree on anything. They don't know what the Trinity means. You tell them that the Trinity is idolatry and this is what Jews and Muslims really think of them. They either don't get it or they say, so what? It's like, well, God doesn't even exist. In the meantime, while I live, I'll LARP as a Christian to show how much I hate Jews and Muslims, right? Because as a Jew,
there are different categories. There are different categories, and I'm trying to
categories of what? Sorry,
categories of Christians. They're not all giving the same answer.
They all worship the Trinity. They're supposed to anyway.
Yeah. Well, I generally agree with you that they're kind of careless about the Trinity, which is why I don't talk about it too much, because then they get upset and run away. But I don't know. I'm just trying different tacks. What can I say?
Well, okay. I suppose No, the thing is, if we're going to take the whole story about idolatry and it being forbidden by the Abrahamic God, then it's idolatry, and even Christians say idolatry is a mortal sin. Yeah. They do say that. So a mortal sin is when if you die without repenting of it, you're going to go to hell. And those are the rules when they took the whole thing seriously. Now they say things like everyone has a reasonable chance of going to heaven, right? So that they have admitted to themselves that they've just changed it. I mean, they have, it seems unilaterally abolished the concept of hell because they don't like it, or it's somehow inconvenient for them to acknowledge that there is punishment after, in the afterlife. So basically, they don't know what they believe, and recently one of them was saying, "Oh, I spoke to this Orthodox Christian said he was talking to a Unitarian Christian. This is in the Paul van der Klee group of TLC, which stands for this little corner, and this Orthodox Christian was saying we didn't get anywhere, and nobody knows what the Trinity means, but Jews and Muslims could say, well, it's associating partners with God. It's the unforgivable sin of associating partners with God, and you're going to be in trouble if God actually exists, and you discover after you're dead that he's not Jesus. And they don't care. And from that, I infer that they don't really believe. They're only pretending to believe. And I know people who say, "Yeah, I'll tell a lie just to be in with a cool gang." It's like, well, why wouldn't I tell a lie if that's a mainstream belief and it's a religion of my country and I don't quite accept it? Well, I'll pretend to, go along to get along, because then otherwise I'd be, a despised minority. And you know how badly the Christians used to treat the Jews until they adopted liberalism.
Humans are social beings, so they want to be part of a group, and they might not be 100% honest to get into that group. Oh yeah, we believe in the Trinity, and nobody can explain the Trinity. Fair enough, but they still want to be in a group. Yeah, so they want to be a group they can identify with easily. They're comfortable with, and that's probably not brown people straight away, but more progressive people, maybe, I don't know, more open-minded people might be talking to brown people and then eventually become Muslim. But for people who are just used to white people, maybe they want to become at least decent Christians.
Well, they can't become decent Christians because this is the problem that the TLC are always going on about. It's a YouTube community set up by Paul van der Klee, a Calvinist pastor in California, and he's basically saying a lot of people who one of the things he says is that hardly anybody comes to his church in Livingstone, Sacramento, but as a YouTuber, he's had more success because people seem to like him, and it's probably American men who've never met their fathers and like his avuncular personality, and he reminds them of a father they never had, and since he's quite a successful YouTuber, they flock to him. But not all of them are Christian. A lot of them are post-Christian, you might say. That there is this term about Westerners being post-Christian, and I mean, the point is, I find it really exasperating with these Americans. It's like, when did post-Christianity begin? It began with the founding of the American Republic, because, basically the founding fathers separated the church from their state. So obviously there was something wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
Because there were all these different kinds of Christians, and they arrived in America, and they were fighting each other, they were killing each other, and kicking the Catholics around, and the Quakers and the Puritans were fighting each other because the Quakers were free and easy, and the Puritans were basically saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it's sinful and whatever. But what I found out from E. Michael Jones in my latest conversation with him is that he was telling me about the halfway covenant, which most people I know haven't heard of. I'm sure most Americans haven't heard of.
No.
So it's basically saying the Puritans used to be really, top dog in England, after they beheaded King Charles, when they were living in Cromwell's Republic, and they were the ones who made the law. And then there was the Restoration, when Charles II, became monarch of the British again, and so they were kicked out. And at first they settled in Leiden in Holland, and then they realized it was too liberal for them and they would lose their Puritan identity. And then they decided finally to go on the Mayflower from somewhere in and make the Atlantic crossing and arrive at Plymouth colony, and in that way keep their identity as Puritans. But of course there were other white people who were Christian who didn't quite agree with them, and as they went westwards, they realized that lots of Americans who were originally Christian, or whose ancestors were, ceased to be as observant as their Puritan ancestors were in England. And the halfway covenant is basically watering down standards, saying you may not have been confirmed, but your parents came to church, and we're going to include you. Otherwise, our church would become extinct. So it was the lowering of the standards, and basically, of course, it's impossible for you as people in the Wild West. There's no rule of law, there's no established church to enforce laws and punish people when they broke the rules. And I guess the Americans were saying, what are you going to do about it? There's no law against not going to church, not doing this, not doing whatever as a Puritan, and maybe I don't want to be Puritan. So they were basically watering down the standards, and this I've been saying, I'm trying to point out that this is what they've been doing over the centuries. It didn't happen, today, in the 21st century. They have been watering down their standards, for since they arrived in America.
Yeah. So I'm focused on what can we do now. So maybe they should learn that watering down your standards doesn't help you, because you need standards to progress. And Muslims are doing really well because they have standards. And if you don't have standards, what do you get? For example, you have women who will cheat on you and not stick to the marriage and basically be useless towards you. So if you lower your standards, everybody else is going to lower their standards, and then you've got nothing left. So that's what I want to convince people of.
So I suppose you have to take them through it step by step, because really all the 5 world religions that we have heard of, are very strict about marriage. They're all Hindu to Christian to Muslim to Jews are saying you're not supposed to have children until you have a marriage license. You're only married after the wedding ceremony, and before that you're not, and you're also not supposed to have. And now that's the norm. It's the culture, and dating apps are big business. So there's something So basically, the fundamentals of religion go against mainstream culture. And now unmarried parents are the norm. To be illegitimate is now the norm, to the extent that you can't even say the word illegitimate or bastard without
Mm,
somebody getting
mm.
triggered. And but they are now the majority, and sooner or later Muslims too will go along to get along. They'll be saying, well, there's no law against it in this country, in this Western
Mm.
country I live in. I happen to like it like that.
Why do you make that assumption that Muslims will, you know, let go of their principles, the ones that are working for them? They can see
Well,
they're decent.
there's a lot of tokenism already, and last week or last time we spoke, we were discussing Mamdani, who is very transgender friendly, and because he's a good-looking guy, women are just gonna go for him, and he's promising them all kinds of free stuff, and the Americans are feeling poor, so of course he's going to get in.
Um, so I don't know. Mamdani's a good example of somebody who wants to help society, but he doesn't have to. He's not a perfect example of what a Muslim is. So just because
Well, Sadiq
Mamdani does it
Khan,
doesn't mean everybody's doing it. Sorry.
Well, Sadiq Khan is another example of tokenism. He's not really
Mm.
Muslim. He's obviously got the gift of the gab, and now he's putting these rainbow zebra crossings. They cost money.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if you've
How
noticed
many
them.
are there of these rainbow zebra
Well,
crossings in
in any kind of
London?
shopping centre place where there's a zebra crossing. So they're actually spending money putting up these artifacts of the current religion, which is LGBT, gay marriage and transgender friendly.
Interesting. Are there a lot of those? I can't remember seeing them in
Well,
London.
you're coming to London soon, so
Yeah.
maybe have a look. I mean, a lot of them are kind of worn out. They use, I guess, cheap materials, and a lot of it is kind of eroded away. It's not looking so new
Maybe
now.
by design. Who knows? Maybe he didn't want it to last. Nobody wanted it to last.
Yeah, because before they changed their mind about what we're supposed to believe and what rules we're supposed to follow. You see, they keep changing it because they don't know how
Hmm.
what attitude they're supposed to take towards this country or that country or this idea or that idea, and they're
Hmm.
kind of keeping their options open. I mean, I did mention to you this thing called fundamental British values, which
Hmm.
was akin to a religion that British school children, were supposed to, kind of parrot.
Hmm.
Democracy, rule of law, tolerance, and respect for others, blah blah blah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
But
and those
being
values keep
deliberately
changing.
vague.
Yeah, because they're not really. I think they were. They don't. Okay, in England, we don't really care about values. It's just part of sort of propaganda, I would say, to make racists happy that people are going to follow some sort of laws, not just follow some sort of laws, but make the racists feel that the immigrants are going to become part of their British culture, but the British don't even know what their culture is. And also, it's just a way of making money. I think that's the main reason why the government did it. They don't really care too much about the few racists that make a lot of noise. I mean, are there a couple of race? Wouldn't you say that the people who are racist are a minority? Or maybe I'm a Londoner, I don't really appreciate how many racists there are.
Well, we don't know. I mean, it depends on who we talk to, I guess. I mean, I do make a point of talking to the dissident, right? So it would
Hmm.
seem to me that most people are racist. But you were talking about values, and you know, the, but they don't know what values mean. It means, what do you value as a society? And I suppose if you're a liberal, you would value liberty, wouldn't you?
Hmm. Yeah.
But if you believed in God, then you would value obedience to God's laws. That's
Yep.
just sort of logical, right? And
Yeah.
in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, there's actually a very helpful list of curses and blessings for those who obey and disobey. So,
Hmm.
So basically, if you're claiming to believe in God, you have to obey his laws and not, unilaterally say, oh, well, I don't like the sound of hell. It's a bit scary and, a bit coercive and a bit fascist and a bit misogynist and a bit race, and so I'll just abolish it. They actually say that. These people actually talk like that. Because I was saying, well, if you're Christian, you're supposed to believe in the afterlife, where good will be rewarded and evil punished. It's like, nah, well, we like to think everyone has a reasonable chance of going to heaven. And this is what the Pope said, the late Pope Francis. So, and I remember a lot of Catholics being, quite angry about it. It's like, well, if anybody can go to heaven, and this means non-Catholics and those horrible Protestants who've been kicking us around, what the hell point was there us being Catholic and enduring all that Catholic guilt and having to stay for these extra long Catholic masses and whatnot, So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like there's a class and you teach them and you're saying, work hard, but I'm not going to bother even marking your exam papers. I'm just going to throw it down the stairs and, yeah. So of course people are going to get angry. And, I don't know if I mentioned moralistic therapeutic deism, and this is what they're trying to get these Americans to believe in, which is like, oh, just obey the law of the land, whatever it is, and you'll go to heaven if you think there is an afterlife. You don't really have to believe in the Trinity. Don't worry about that. It's basically that sort of idea. I think I might have to answer that one. If you
Sure.
please talk to the chat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm going to be coming to London next week. So I'll do one live stream with E. Michael Jones, and then I'm going to take a break from the live streams, I think, and go to Speaker's Corner instead. It's a famous debate place. So do check out my channel, Khalid Safir, and see. So Speaker's Corner is a 150-year-old tradition in London, central London, in a park where people debate. And it's kind of changed its form. It used to be people stood on a step ladder or something and then spoke to a crowd, and maybe the crowd would interact. But now it's become more like YouTube centric in the way, one-to-one discussions, and not really talking to a group, but the group would be just surrounding you and listening to you and jeering or heckling possibly. Yeah, so it's an interesting place, Speaker's Corner, because I think it's been taken over by Muslims. And I didn't really talk to Christians before because I thought, especially in England, it's an extinct group. What do you think? Are Christians extinct in... Are you come back? I'm not sure.
Yes, I have. So this is the other thing. You're talking about Christians. Who is a Christian, right? That's a... it can't be I'm Christian just because I say I'm Christian. There is a process that you have to go through, which is, the whole thing about organized religion. And it's like they don't even care about these things. It's like there is a difference between the Abrahamic religions, which are organized religions because they're supposed to derive their law from God, who revealed his laws in the Torah to the Jews, and and then the adaptations afterwards. So it's like, yeah, you have to believe in God properly, and this means you mustn't,
Okay, let me ask you, because I know the answers to these things, but for the benefit of your viewers, why do Christians have to believe in their God properly? Why can't they just let...
Because otherwise it would be heresy, right? Because, I mean, they make a point of not believing in God in the same way as Jews and Muslims do, right? Because otherwise, Jews will say, well, why don't you become Jews? And Muslims will say, why don't you become Muslims? And then they'll have...
But don't care about the rules
we worship the Trinity.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I guess Jews and Muslims, I mean, basically, apart from the political argument, Jews are going to say, well, our Torah is the original and the best. And Muslims will be saying, no, our the Quran is the best because it's the final one, right? Because that is fundamentally what you guys are arguing about, without considering
it's the
the
most up to
territorial dispute.
date, not corrupted, and evolved and advanced form of religion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most advanced form of ethical monotheism with universal application. You're saying basically it's like you guys just if you want you carry on being Jews, being Christians, but the law will be Sharia. That's the idea, isn't it? And then and maybe eventually these Jews or Christians and Hindus and Buddhists will think, well, I might decide to become Muslim because I want to go along to get along, and Muslims in this Muslim country get the best jobs, and what's the point of maybe because that's you do get
actually that's kind of true, because me, if I'm thinking of like employing people, whatever, and I would employ, and I kind of joke with my fellow Ahmadi Muslims that we should do as the Jews do. We just employ people that and there's a benefit to that because you can trust them. We think as Ahmadi Muslims that we have a certain higher standard than the average person in terms of behavior, standard of work, etc. And if you know somebody and where they live and everything, they're not going to do a bad job because you're just going to go to their house and they're going to lose their reputation within the community and whatever. You know what I mean? So I do think that will happen. Actually, I was laughing at first that if you have a Muslim community, they would employ more people amongst their own community. Yeah.
but they might be done for discrimination. I mean, we don't even know what. I mean, I know in Christian schools, I mean, Church of England schools, they're actually forced to dilute their system and not give it to, if you're Catholic, you have to set aside, so of course your culture will eventually.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We don't have those kind of rules in Jordan, so I wasn't thinking about that. But like, my Arabic teacher that I chose said, like, you're my friend, be my Arabic teacher, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to help you out as well, sort of thing. How do the Jews manage it? Because Jews in England, they tend to support each other, and without
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the subject because even they have had their principles eroded. So you may have heard of the Jewish Free School. Anyway, there's
I know free schools allow you to basically create your own style of school, I guess. It's a government-supported school. Yeah, so you can have all sorts of free schools, and then I haven't heard of a Jewish.
Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the free bit because I'm not clear about it. But the point was that there is this very popular school for Jews, right? And they all want to send their children to it, and of course it's oversubscribed. And then there will be, fighting amongst Jews about whose kid gets to get in. And then the religious Jews are saying, well, if your mother, if the mother of that child is not Jewish, then it ain't Jewish. And then the liberal Jews, the Reform Jews, the liberal Jews, they're the ones who don't go with the rules anyway, because for traditional Jews, the mother has to be Jewish, or the kid ain't Jewish. It's a manzer,
Yeah.
So the liberal Jews don't care about these things, so they ran to the government and say, "Oh, this is sex discrimination and racism," and the government actually agreed with these liberal Jews. So this Jewish free school was forced to admit children who weren't really properly Jewish at all, according to the Orthodox view of Judaism. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you don't control the legislature, then your principles are just going to be eroded over time. And this has happened to Jews, and this will also happen to Muslims.
Interesting point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you can get away with certain things, but it's true with big formal organization like a school, you can't do it. Like you can do cash in hand little activities between yourselves. Um, but yeah, you got a good point that if you don't control the laws, you are going to be affected by it. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like we, as Ahmadi Muslims, we have schools in Africa and Ghana, particularly, and I'm not sure if it's great or not, but um, we're forced to allow anybody. They actually, the government decides who are the teachers. It used to be just Ahmadi Muslim teachers, but you still have some degree of control. But that's Ghana. It's completely different to England.
Yeah, I mean,
England's got a lot more laws. Yeah.
yeah. So increasingly they are trying to control how people what people believe and how people think, and obviously they would want to make us do the things they want us to do because we act on our beliefs, right?
Hmm.
That's why certain beliefs are so controversial, and currently they're trying to have it both ways. The British, they're supposed, officially that they're a Christian kingdom, right? It's still called the United Kingdom, and the kingdom means there's a monarch in charge, and the monarch is
Hmm.
supported by Christianity that defends the divine right of kings, because that was the
Okay.
whole
Yeah.
point of Christianity. You know,
Hmm.
and I know nobody even knows the history of why Constantine decided to convert Rome to Christianity. You know,
Hmm.
because if you look at
Yeah.
Roman history before Constantine um, Christianized Rome, there was a lot of fighting and civil wars with Roman generals fighting each other to become the emperor of Rome. And
Hmm.
Constantine thought, well, this has to stop. We have to, calm down, or we will destroy ourselves in war. So he thought, Christianity, it was the only thing around at the time, right? So they
Hmm.
thought, well, if you believe in the afterlife, and if you're good and you go to heaven, if you're bad, you get punished, maybe that will calm things down a bit. But
Hmm.
the point was, Rome declined and became extinct. So Christianity did not protect the Roman Empire. But and I think fundamentally what E. Michael Jones doesn't understand is that you can't have a priesthood that is divorced from the state that the religion is supposed to be. So
What
if
do you
you
mean
don't have the force.
forced? Like imams are not part of the state either. We seem to be doing fine, I guess. What do you
Well,
mean?
yes. I mean, I think mosques are run on Presbyterian principles, and this used to be really, really controversial in England too, because the whole idea was that if you're the king, you control everything. Nobody has any rights. They have to follow your religion. If they're going to question it, you can burn them at the stake. You can take their property and
Hmm.
whatever. And and this was how it worked. And over the centuries, even the barons objected and said to the king, "Hey, you can't just come in and take our stuff and throw us into jail without even telling us what we've done wrong."
Hmm.
And eventually, we had more and more rights, and this is. But originally
What do you
when
mean by mosques are run by Presbyterian principles? I don't understand that. It's probably because I don't understand Presbyterian churches very well. So,
well so I'm uh, there are now many ways of organizing your church if you're a
mhm.
Christian. So you could be Catholic and you take your orders from the Pope. If
Yeah.
you're Anglican, you take your orders from the Archbishop of Canterbury or the British monarch. You know, now I know the British monarch has no power. And then
Hmm.
um, if you're Calvinist, you actually just use the principles of Calvinism and preach to your particular church, and that there will be an elder system. You are the elders, and if you serve the congregation, they'll keep electing you again to be the elder and follow
Hmm.
your orders. But as a church, you are kind of independent. You're not taking orders from somewhere else. Like the
Hmm.
king or the bishop or the you know whatever. So
Sure.
the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church have the same system of centralized hierarchy. There is someone who pronounces on doctrine, and but with the different kinds of churches, they kind of like to go their own way. It's like, we're going to be
Mm.
Christian in this church in our own way. And if we want, if we say, gay marriage is okay, that's okay. Nobody can tell us otherwise, because gay marriage is already legal in America,
Sure.
or that's how they think. So once
Mm.
upon a time, it was really very controversial, because obviously the king, the monarch, wanted to control everything, and it's Scotland who wanted to go their own way, and it's mostly the Scottish who are Presbyterians, and they're
Right.
saying, our churches are going to be run by our church elders, taking orders from not the Church of England, not the Archbishop of Canterbury, not the King of England. So
And how much hierarchy is there amongst the church elders? Do the church elders control a number of churches, or is it just one church has its own elder system?
well, in a way, I don't think they control much, because obviously, if nobody comes to your church because you're preaching hellfire at them, and
Hmm.
people get frightened and don't want their children to be upset, they won't come to your church. They'll find a church that is kind of more sweet natured and more optimistic, whatever. So even if nobody says you have to say this or that, you will kind of think, well, nobody will come to my church if all I do is preach brimstone and hellfire. And even
Hmm.
Jews, they say, yes, and we have these wealthy donors, and they like to dress, their wives like to dress immodestly, and they don't like to hear about the principles of Orthodox Judaism, and the rabbi, who gets his job from these people, has to kind of go along to get along. And this is what
Hmm.
Rabbi Mizrahi says. He's useful to them, because, they can at least, say, oh, we've got this guest speaker, Rabbi Mizrahi. And then, Rabbi Mizrahi comes and says they're all going to hell because they dress immodestly, and, blah, blah, blah. And then they're all, in shock and horror. And the local rabbi can say, oh, well, I didn't know he was going to be quite like that.
Hmm.
I guess I won't ask him again if he's so upsetting. I'm terribly sorry, and
Hmm.
he gives them plausible deniability. But even the Jews are affected, because a lot of them, they don't know their own religion either.
Hmm.
They sort of think Christianity is okay, but isn't the whole point of being a Jew, having a hissy fit every time you see, an idol? Because, according to their history, Moses executed 3,000 of them after he caught them worshipping the golden calf.
Oh, really? Wow, I didn't know you executed so many people. Okay, that's interesting. Hmm. Okay. Cool.
Well,
How
that's the
is
story anyway.
yeah? How is Speaker's Corner? Have you been there recently? I'll be visiting. Maybe I'll see you there. But how's it changed? Muslims taking over even more of it? What kind of
Yeah,
dispute?
it's mostly Muslims. Muhammad Hijab doesn't go there anymore, or
Hmm.
when I go, he doesn't go there. I guess he has more important things to do. Neither is Ali Dawah, so they're still going, but there are
Okay,
others. Hmm.
that's
Um,
good. Maybe we don't really need those big YouTubers. They're not particularly honest and whatever. I mean, when like I've had my experience with them is that they don't like having real debates. They just get people who are easy to debate and do little YouTube clips, and that's about it. They know some things,
mhm,
um, yeah, but
yeah.
there are a lot of drama, and maybe we don't need that drama. We need the intellect to come back in. Yeah.
Well, I think that they're busy online, because I don't know if you've been watching Daniel Hakikatju's
Hmm.
streams, because he's complaining about the Wahhabis ganging up and fearing him, and one of the things that these Wahhabis have done is round up a whole bunch of Muslim YouTubers to denounce him, and there's a 7-hour stream, but
Yeah. I've
yeah.
listened to
So,
a bit of
so I
that.
think it
Yeah.
just makes it Muslims sound so idiotic, because they were saying, oh, if is it shirk if you kill animals to sacrifice for your king or something? It just went on and on like that, or the jinn, or something like that, and it's like, well, nobody cares. It's like, you know, well, it's too theoretical, but they're obviously,
Mm.
having a go at him because he's talking about pan-Islamism, right? Which means
Mm.
everybody, he's getting the Ummah to unite, and maybe the powers that be are telling the Wahhabis to go into overdrive to denounce Daniel because they don't want Muslims of the world to unite.
Yeah, so I do hear again and again the obvious need for Muslims. I hear it amongst Muslims, like, why are we so weak? There's so many of us, and we're so weak. And there was a video the other day that, if we all got together, all the Muslim countries got together, you'd be like, I don't know, a third of the population, or I don't know what it was, some huge fraction of the population, and you'd have trillions of dollars at your disposal, and you'd be able to defend yourselves against Trump and the rest of the Westerners. So there's an obvious need for it, and you keep hearing it. But Saudi's kind of controlled by a lot of the Emirati and the rich, big money countries are already controlled by Israel. It seems to be the case. So it's hard
Yeah.
to unite. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, yes. So the Gulf states are Gulf kingdoms, right?
Hmm.
They're all absolute monarchy. So a lot of Muslims are afraid to say anything because they're afraid that their absolute monarch will come and get them, either sign their death warrant or throw them into prison without a
Yeah.
charge, or exile them or confiscate their property, or they'll lose their job. And under an absolute monarchy, it's very easy to do that, because what's the point of being king if you can't do any of those things, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know if we've discussed the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which was a secret agreement between the French and the British to divide the Middle East into different zones of influence.
Yeah, I remember you bringing it up, and yep, it makes sense that the whole Middle East has been divided in a way that can be controlled. Yeah.
Yeah, to avoid the pan-Arabism or
Hmm.
Islamism. So they draw the boundaries in a really in a bad way. So imagine if we were neighbours and suddenly we have to share our garden or our kitchen or our
Yeah.
bathroom. Of course we'd be
Yeah.
fighting. And this is deliberate. They partitioned India in this way too. They did it in the most divisive way, to make sure that the Indians and Pakistanis will forever be fighting each other and never unite, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and this is really the problem, and people don't realize it. The sort of even the Americans, they think, oh, a king, maybe we'd like a king, maybe Trump could be king and start a dynasty, he's got so many sons, and crap like that.
Hmm.
So and of course, a lot of people are sentimental about the monarchy, and it's mostly women who love the British monarchy because they've watched The Crown, which is a Netflix series costing so much money, and that's why it looks so good. And everyone who watches it wants the British monarchy to carry on because they want to watch the next series of The Crown.
Hmm.
Have you
Yeah, I
ever
haven't
watched any
watched
of
it.
it?
No, I haven't. What
Well,
do you
just
think
watch
of it?
one, to see what I mean. And it's with
Yeah.
American money. It's not the BBC, right? Because the BBC
Hmm.
wouldn't dare, because the British
What do
people
you,
would
what do
just say,
you
how
make of
dare you?
it?
Oh, actually, I found it totally engrossing. I binge watched it, and it tells you a lot about the history, and you know, it makes you kind of like the characters, like in a soap opera. So of course, you want to see the next
So did
episode.
you come to it like a lot of, I think, British people who don't really? First of all, you think that the monarchy in England is irrelevant and maybe a bit of a burden, but maybe beneficial for tourism for the suckers who think that it's somehow special. Maybe they're not suckers. Maybe it's nice to have a living story behind these really old buildings that we have in London. Is that how you approached? You came to the series, and now you basically hated the monarchy, and then you come into it and go, "Oh, I quite like the monarchy because they've got a nice story." Is that what happened? Is that the benefit of
Well,
this
actually, I was a
series?
monarchist. I was
Oh,
a
really?
monarchist. I mean, I actually saw the Queen when I was a child, and um, um, well, last century, I saw King Charles. Sorry, he was Prince of
Mm.
Wales, and you know, all they have to do is smile at you, and you'll go, wow, or they just remembered you, and they have this technique, you know, they go and visit somewhere, and they ask after everyone, and they smile at everyone, and they go to the lowliest person, the you know, the caretaker or someone, and they just acknowledge his presence. And what do you do here?
Mm.
And it's like,
So
wow,
you're a monarch. You were a monarchist because
because I was
King Charles
sentimental,
smiled at you.
whatever. And then I realized that it actually has diplomatic implications for the Australians, Canadians, and New Zealanders, right? And they
Mm.
are just very sad people who don't know how where they are in the pecking order of white people. So the top white people are the Americans, the second tier white people are the Europeans, and the Australians, New Zealanders and Canadians, they're still British. They don't know it yet. They still don't know it. It's like we share the same monarch. Yeah, you are British territory, and there's still the position of Governor General. What's a Governor General? It's a colonial post, and we know from the Australian constitutional crisis of 1975 that a elected Prime Minister of Australia was dismissed by the Governor General, answering only to the British Crown. There's a Wikipedia entry on that, 1975, Australia's constitutional crisis. So
Has
what,
that
what
problem been fixed? I mean, do
we
the
know that,
British have any control
well,
on
the
Australia?
post of the Governor General is still there, right? And the reason
Mm.
why Garth Whitlam was sacked was he said to the Americans, "We don't want no CIA listening posts down under. We don't want no
Mm.
American bases down under. We don't want no American military bases down under." And I guess that was not allowed.
Mm.
So Britain has basically sold out its colonies. So and we know from COVID that the people most complaining about um, totally losing their rights are people in the colonies, the colonials, the third tier
Mm.
white people.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
when you try and tell them, they get very upset. I mean, I guess, you know, if you're kind of telling somebody bad news, they want to deny it and hope it's not true. And you know, I did actually speak to a Catholic lawyer, and they don't get it, or they just want to instantly forget it because they can't believe how, you know, without control that they are. And I know that when the Queen died, um, Albert Albanese, the current Australian Prime Minister, he basically promised not to hold a referendum on becoming a republic in his first term. He promised that.
Mm.
He had his arm twisted and said he'd be sacked if he didn't promise to do that. Because that would be the time for the Americans to break free of, you know, being a dominion, which was how they used to call these territories. They are British
Mm.
dominions, dominated
Mm.
by the land.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Cool.
you know, after World War II, when Britain quote won, you know, World War II, you know, the non-white parts of the British Empire declared independence. You know, there was India, there was, you know, quite a few countries in Africa, Singapore, Malaya,
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
they
So the white country. So, are you saying Australia is not independent from the British? Because they seem to be.
well, they call it different. They suddenly switched from British Dominion to British Commonwealth, which sounds friendlier and more equal, right? And they fell for it, but they have no
So, are you
independent foreign
saying the
policy.
prime minister can be sacked still by some sort of British entity?
Yes,
Like,
the Governor General, in theory, okay, he used to control the armed forces in Australia, and I
hmm,
think she's female now, but it used to be, he controlled, all the, armed forces, as you would expect him to do, being the Governor General of a colony.
hmm,
Of course, you control the, armed forces
right, okay.
to
But
impose
like, is
order
there any
when their
realistic
native
power
fell.
still? Does
Pardon?
it? Does he still have any realistic power?
Well, I mean, it's done through smokes and mirrors. I mean, they're not going to say, "Oi, but you put one, say the wrong thing, and we're going to sack you." But they're going to use, Google and manage and manipulate the opinions and I mean that's how they do it. I mean,
Hmm.
some YouTubers are promoted and others are suppressed, so that people will think, oh, the main, this big shot YouTuber says this and that, and who are you? You only have, you're not even monetized. You don't have, you know. Even 100 subscribers and viewers and whatever. So that
Hmm.
there's that kind of a different kind of hierarchy, but of course it's the algorithms that control us. And yesterday, in a space that I joined, that somebody had discovered that people, sorry, okay, it was really a Christian complaining that he'd been flagged as a Christian. For some reason,
Hmm.
he discovered how X labeled him, and then they decided he wasn't violent, but he was definitely Christian. And
Hmm.
I guess they want to know what views you promote and what you are against, so they can
Hmm.
decide to promote you as a user of X, right? And
Hmm.
of course they do that. I mean, when you think about it, um, and I mean that's how they control us by making us believe all kinds of things like we're going to win if we do this, and we're going to get slapped if we say that, and whatever. And
Hmm.
most people will be looking to a higher authority to make sure if it's safe to say this or oppose that, or be rude to this person, and whatever. So that's how they control us. But I mean, the rules are still there. So I'm basically saying Australia, Canada, and New Zealand do not have an independent foreign policy. And the Five Eyes, which is basically we're all going to agree to submit to whatever America says, and basically Australia down under. It's really a colony of the America. They've been forced to buy these nuclear submarines for what? Because America wants them to
Hmm.
buy. The Britain has these nuclear submarines, but we can't start our own nuclear war because we have to apply for the codes from the Americans. Otherwise, the nuclear missile won't launch or whatever.
Really? What? So Britain can't load its
We
shoot
just
its
pay for
own.
it.
Who pays for it?
The British pay for these nuclear
Yeah, and we
submarines.
can't shoot our own missiles. If
No, you have to apply to America for the codes, the launch
that's
codes.
so funny, I've never heard that before.
Well, if you look it up, I mean, it's sort of common knowledge for people interested in these things. So
So
basically, I'm
I'll ask
saying,
AI: Can the UK independently? Oh God, I've got the worst typing right now. Independently fire nuke nukes without permission of the US. Well, let's see what Gemini AI. Technically and legally, yes, the UK can fire. Operational independence, yes, it says the UK has full command and control over the launch process. There is no kill switch or red button in Washington that can stop British. But let's see, structural dependency, the but. While the UK can pull the trigger alone, it cannot maintain the gun without the US. The UK's nuclear system is deeply integrated with American technology. Summary: the UK is the only nuclear power that is operationally independent, but technically dependent. Okay, technically dependent because they use US technology, it seems, but they have the right to press the button if they want to press the button to shoot nukes. What do you think about that? Is that your understanding?
Um, well, that was obviously different to what I was telling you, but um,
Who knows? Maybe. I mean, AI doesn't always tell the truth. Maybe it's
I'll have to look it up, but it's kind of saying yes and no. It's like they could technically, but I think does the UK have to apply for launch codes from the US to launch a nuclear missile? Maybe that will have a different. Okay, so it's saying no, full operational control over Trident nuclear deterrent. Okay, that was different to what I heard, but I mean, then it says the US has no veto, no control, no mechanism to prevent the UK from launching its missiles. While the UK relies on the US for logistical support and maintenance, servicing missiles in Georgia. Oh, this does extend to launch authority. The UK's nuclear deterrent is operationally independent, meaning can launch without any external approval. Okay, that is what it says. I don't quite believe that. But I mean, I guess that they're now saying they've been saying this from 2024 after maybe a lot of people realised that it wasn't even independent. So.
Yeah, Nathaniel, our friend Nathaniel, aka Taurus Necros Productions, is asking, are there essentially YouTube shorts or something, or Substack, which I never really used, so you can get a summary of what we're talking about because it's hard to keep up. And that's what we were talking about in the beginning, isn't it? Like, StreamYard produces them automatically, or what? How does that work?
Yeah. So if you want it produced, if you want it done under the advanced program, after your stream, it'll ask you if you want it to generate clips, and then you click yes, and then it does it, and then it lets you know by email when they're ready, and they'll.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, StreamYard was a bit of a rip-off before, but if it's got that service, it might be worth going back to it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so you get 25 free AI clips if you pay for, I think, is it 30 quid now for a month of StreamYard, and then after it finishes, I did pay last month. but it's expired, and then it asks me, I can try a week of advance for free, and
Yeah.
if I don't cancel in time, they're going to charge me $88.
Yeah, I was with StreamYard, but they didn't really offer that service, and they were just hiking up the prices secretly, which was annoying. So I think lots of people quit them. But if they're actually adding to their service or adding value to their service, maybe I'll go back to it. So yeah, um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the easiest to use. I mean, you can fiddle around for free on OBS, but it's really very clunky. But okay, I'll actually have to go look on. Who thinks that the UK is an independent country? I mean, its
Oh yeah,
behaviour.
nobody.
So I really believe it.
I mean, I would say the Jews control Jews or whoever it is, some sort of business powers, but the Jews are an easy go-to, highly probable source of control. They seem to be telling Trump what to do. Yeah, so
Well,
something like that. They're not
yeah.
independent, but they're controlled by some monetary power. Yeah.
Well, okay, my theory about the Jews is that they're being used as a brand by the American empire. So they can pretend to be the good guys and protecting Israel and whatever, but really what they're doing is use Israel as a testing ground for the latest weaponry. And the Jews don't even know it. And a lot of them are not very happy. A lot of them have been tricked into thinking, "Oh, yay, we're going to go and live in Israel, and and be more Jewish." It's like, no, but you're being run under the principles of Christian Zionism, and the Christian Zionists are basically believe that what Christians have to do is to dump all the Jews in Israel and then convert them to Christianity, and then Jesus will come. That's basically their belief. And that's probably how America gets Americans to support, or if they're Christian and believe in the whole thing, to support Israel, because it obviously costs a lot of money. But I think even Jews like Dubin are saying, I'm a non-Zionist, right? I mean, he says these things because obviously he doesn't want to go and live in Israel, and he doesn't think he doesn't want to take the flak for all the anti-Semitism generated by the mass murder of the Gazans. Because I think the whole business model is we're going to bomb the crap out of you, and then we're going to rebuild your country using our contractors, of course. And in the meantime, we will have a chance to have tested our weapons on real people.
Okay. I mean, that does make some sense. It's an interesting way of looking at it.
And well, on AI, if you ask it, a lot of the latest weaponry are have this sort of label like recently tested in Israel. Like it works because
really?
we tested it in
AI
Israel.
answers. What do you mean? Oh, the AI itself.
I think I posted it in my Substack. I cut and pasted the what I discovered on AI. I mean, it's used as a sales pitch. Like it's the latest technology, and it's actually being tested in Gaza. So buy from us. So,
sorry, I thought you were talking about like responses in AI. Okay, AI for military. Okay, yeah.
And I'm saying, it's not just the Gazans who are the lab rats of the military-industrial complex. It's also the Jews,
Okay, interesting.
And I was trying to tell you last time we spoke that the British were trying to create a religion called British Israelism. Do you remember me saying that?
No, I've forgotten.
So it was a religion that was created in Victorian times, and obviously when they got the Palestine Mandate in 1918, They wanted to people their colony with British people who will keep an eye on the oil and fight the Arabs. And
I see.
convincing
Okay.
convincing British people to think that they're one of the lost tribes in Israel would make them go and live there because, it's holy, 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 and, very romantic and whatever. Because otherwise, the typical Briton would not be wanting to go and live in amongst malarial swamps and fight Arabs in the Middle East. So they have to kind of
Right.
make them believe that the kind of God's chosen people chose them to
Yeah.
go and live in Israel and fight the Arabs. But it didn't happen because Britain didn't hang on to Israel after World War II.
Sure.
Because
I better go now. But good talking to you as usual. And maybe see you next week.
Oh, you'll be in the UK by then, right?
Yeah, I'm going on Tuesday, I think, on the 20th, whatever that is. Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll keep in touch, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to explain myself.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, thanks for listening, Nathaniel, as well. God bless you too. And thanks, Claire, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Hope you
Colin,
see you in
for
real life.
coming.
See you. Bye.
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 Okay, Nathaniel, you can come on if you want, but you may not. Oh, he's gone anyway. So, Nathaniel, don't you know that I timestamp my streams, so you don't even have to listen to them, right? Somebody recently said that because of my timestamps, they don't need to listen to my streams, which is fine. I'm not. I'm here to save you time. I am here to explain things to you, though many of you do not wish to have certain things explained to you. Because you probably don't want to know how you have been used and abused by your very own government.
Hey, good morning.
Daniel,
How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, doing well. What am I? Okay, I hear your voice over here. Okay, sorry. Um, what was the last thing you said? I had your stream up, so there's an echo and a delay.
No, I thought you might want to join us and say a few things.
Yeah, well, what you were just saying to Mr. Saphir was very interesting. And I was in the chat. I think that's great. I mean, honestly, now about the short form thing. Yeah, I know there's timestamps and whatnot. One of the things I learned when I started doing podcasting again, when I was doing media and marketing like 5 years ago, I was a single man, but and I was always trying to figure out, because I like books, I was always trying to figure out how to get married white fathers, which is like your main most important demographic in America, right? How to get them to listen to my stuff. And what I figured out is they just don't have time. So you have to give them, and I know like you make ways for them to figure out how to, but it's so bad that like they don't even have time to figure out timestamps and stuff like that. So that's why like I have a whole platform that only releases a half an hour a month, like in 15-minute chunks, so that all the working men with like a lot of responsibility can get into the habit of listening. And I try to make it where it's got like the best stuff, or at least stuff that keeps them up with me, you know? So like, for instance, the last stream we did is being released now, the one we did in Christmas, and is broken up into 15-minute chunks, which I could do better than that, but I don't have the time to do better than that. So I recommend that. I really do. Because then, even a guy like me can keep up with you. You know, um, but
Well, a lot of what I say is kind of a repetition of what I've been saying for quite a while.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But what happens is if somebody comes in and they see the YouTube and then they see like an hour and a half, and then they start listening to it, and you're kind of like it's warming up for like half an hour, which is normal. That's how conversations should go, because it's it's how you're like comfortable with people. It's the right way to do it. That's the YouTube style. But then they get started, then they can't get anywhere, and then they come in again, and there's another hour and a half, and they're like, oh, maybe a week later, and they're like, oh man, okay, I can't keep up, and then people just fall off. It happens to me. Happens to all the Americans. That's our problem. We just don't have time. I think I said that to you about vacations and stuff like that. That I think England, like the standard is more than 2 weeks off a year, right? Like you guys give more
I think
vacation.
it's about that.
Is it
It's
about
about
okay?
and it's standard now, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's the American standard. We work way too much. Um, so
Yeah, maybe you have more public holidays.
no,
Like Easter.
we work more than you guys. It's rare. Most people I know don't even take 2 weeks off.
I can well believe that. But so time is scarce, and sometimes less is more, as they say, and that's why I prefer X or Twitter, as I used
Twitter.
to call it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it limits you. It's like it used to be no more than 250 characters, right? No more than that. And then it concentrates your mind, and you make sure that because yeah, you can post long essays on your blog, but you won't know if people get to the end of it either. So if you write in people usually finish reading a tweet, right? It's only 250 characters.
Yeah.
So, and that was the most powerful platform. And now
Yeah.
they've figured out ways of suppressing certain users and promoting others. So, unless you pay to have your tweet promoted, it doesn't get anywhere. And of course, people, and now you can't even like somebody's tweet and show that you do, because if you do that, it means, well, you might get into trouble. You like that tweet, it means you're a fascist, or something like that. So now X have made it private, so people can go down your X profile, read all your tweets and discover what you liked, and then make you lose your job, right? So they're changing the rules to make it harder for us to propagate our message. So that's why I think brevity is really so important, because nobody has time to listen to cook, right? Let me cook. It's like no, you have to kind of declare your colours as soon as you get into the room, right?
Right.
So people know whether you're friend or foe, right? That's how they want to think anyway.
That's how they want to think. Yeah. I mean, in marketing, you basically learn, and I think it's an important principle to not peg yourself into one category, because people accept or reject you in a hurry, and I don't even like being accepted by people in a hurry, because then you find yourself locked down where you can't have differing opinions from the group. You know what I mean? So every group I enter, and I learned this from sales and marketing, but it's also helpful because I have different opinions. Like what you were just saying to Mr. Saphir, I only caught the tail end of that, but that's excellent. That's like a lot of my peers hate the Jews, at least hate what they're doing. And I think I said this to Mr. Saphir because he seems to be kind of that way too, at least against Israel. Well, it's like I have a pretty developed idea of what a Jew is, and it's very personal. It's like, who is the Jew? You know what I mean? That's why, like who do I blame? Because one of the
government. You have to blame your government.
Well, yeah, I mean the government definitely. Now here's where I differ about that though, because I was trying to express this to you. From studying history, one of the big problems I had when I was growing up and trying to understand the world and studying history is things don't work today like they've worked for almost all of history. And I think and what I finally discovered, I think, is the reason is because I believe that basically since about 1865 in America, since the Civil War, the leader, kind of like the people who actually do things, they're all in the economic sphere. They're all like capitalists and magnates. That it's like your Rockefeller and your Carnegie and whatnot. Those are the people who actually did things, and the presidents and the people in government just ended up working for those guys. Which is, you see that in history with oligarchs.
Well, big business would be donating to the campaign funds of the different parties. So that's why everything is big business.
Yeah,
and
well, it's not.
Washington said don't have political parties, and when I say that, Americans kind of reject that because they seem to want their elections, or they think voting is a sacred cow that they're not going to give up, even though it hasn't done them any good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the problem goes back to the beginning. I don't think we should have parties, but I kind of see it as like a symptom of the original problem, which was the Republican form of government that Americans set up, that George Washington and his faction, because he had a faction. It's the Federalist faction, and they came up with the Constitution because before the Constitution, the federal government had no power, and it shouldn't have. It should have never had. It should have stayed weak, honestly, because
okay, this shoulda, coulda, woulda. You've got your Constitution right now, and then we have to understand why the founding fathers separated the church from their state. Right, so they had a problem with Christianity, and I was trying to tell Khalid about the halfway covenant.
It's very cold here. It's very, very cold here. You need to go put on socks and something. Okay, I should have told you this. Okay, so sorry, Miss Kaw. I was worried that so my son woke up very early and it's freezing cold in the garage, and he's here. But I love this conversation. I wish I could continue it, but I have to take care of my son now. But
okay, so but did you listen?
I would love to talk about this more, though. I'd love to pick up.
Yeah.
Maybe on Twitter. Maybe you can help me get on Twitter. I don't know. I can't figure out Twitter to save my life.
Well, once you get on it, I'll help you.
I'm on it. I think I'm the Village Economy on Twitter. So I'll pull up the app and I'll try to send you a message or something. You tell me what to do.
Okay. All right.
But whatever. This conversation was excellent. I'd love to keep going on this. Maybe. I don't know. If we're on Twitter and you say what you just said about George Washington, I missed the next thing because I was talking to my son, and then I respond on Twitter and we have a conversation. Does that grow our accounts? Because we're doing that in public.
Yeah, because people will take an interest. So that's an excellent idea.
Let's do that. Yeah, because I could do that in the warm part of the house. All right. Well, God bless you. Thank you, Miss Kaw. Keep up the good work.
Okay,
I think you're doing a good thing. I want to help you infiltrate the American bourgeoisie, because I know how these people these Christians. I grew up with that. They sit and they do their Bible studies and they don't talk about anything important. Here's the simple answer. What I figured out is they're wealthy. They're in debt like everyone else, but they have more cash flow in and out, so they don't care about what the youth cares about, and then they're afraid of offending their wives. It's because they're afraid of offending their wives. That's what it is. And I can't blame them. That's what it is.
Yeah, because then you have no full divorce, right?
Right.
And
well,
your wife could divorce you for over a political disagreement. I remember there were wives who threatened to divorce their husbands if they voted for Trump. If I catch you voting for Trump,
that's a symptom. That's a symptom. But like the thing that I always say, everything's economics. You have to understand these. So because they're working so much, they're in the workplace so much, and their wife manages the house, which is totally unnatural. That's not how it should work. They have like their whole lives, they've had these tiny periods of time in order to come home and try to cooperate with their wife and try to understand their wife. They don't have enough time to understand their wife. So then that's why they're afraid of offending their wives. They don't know what will offend their wives. And if they do offend their wives, that their children have this loyalty to their mothers because they never see their fathers. And now these guys are coming home from work and being retired, and they don't even know. So that's why you see them trying to figure out like emotions and feelings and everything's. Yeah, oh, we're having these wonderful conversations, and they say it's very feminine. Well, it's because they're trying to relate to their wives. So, all right,
Mhm.
I'll
Well,
try
thanks
to.
for that great insight, Nathaniel.
I'm gonna pull up Twitter and I'm gonna try to figure it out, and then we'll continue this conversation on Twitter.
Okay.
So,
Thanks,
God,
Nathaniel. Talk to you
thank
soon.
you. I'm praying for you, Miss Carr. I believe in you.
I'll pray for you too.
Please do. Please do. That's what I need.
All
Goodbye.
right. Bye.